Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a client's native garden. I apologize, there's still a man mowing grass over there. Hopefully you can still hear me perfectly fine, but he had just gotten done mowing through here, and it really helps you see the difference between a native naturalistic garden and what we do to our grasslands and our common spaces. This grass is cut, I would say a little bit too short. A lot of this is mostly sand and dirt, but if you come over here to a garden that is 1 year old, where we've simply just set some straw and planted out some native plants, you can go into the soil and everything is damp and wet and happy, and there's bugs and all that. And all that is just a little bit of straw. Then we allowed some plants to grow. We've been trimming down some of the quote-unquote weeds, let some of the goldenrod and things like that grow up, and everything has been thriving in here. Now, since this is a native garden, everything in here is native, including this pokeweed, but we've pulled that out because those berries are inedible for humans anyways. And then there's a smother weed. This is the biggest weed that is in this little kind of zone here, this area of the property. So to focus on the smotherweed a little bit, I actually like it because we can use it for its purpose, the purpose that it's designed to do. And it's not to smother necessarily, it is to hold soil together. So straight ahead right here is where all those roots came out, and they come out all the way out here. And what they're doing is they're trying to send down runners, they're trying to drop seeds, they're trying to grow plants that will hold all the soil together. And this is just the main root. But as you can see, it just can come down and hold all this stuff together, because this whole area last spring was tilled, and then it was planted out with like 500 different flowers. So that's why you see a lot of the same species of goldenrod. There's a lot of coneflower in here and a number of different grasses like Indian grasses and things like that. And what we've tried to do is we were hired to maintain this and to spread the seeds of the native plants where we could, to maintain them, make sure they were growing right, and to also preserve the soil as much as possible. So when we were hired, we came in with, 30, 40 bales of straw. We got everything strawed out so that the moisture could actually stay in the soil and the plants had a chance to live. And then we designed and installed some wood chips. And by design, we mean we tried to find a path through the plantings where we wouldn't have to move too many of the plants or, cover up any of the plants. So with a little bit of moving and a little bit of creativity, we were able to set aside a couple of different areas where people could either access or sit in. And currently, right now, this is a pretty rough stage for this garden because we're going into fall, and it is only the first year. So you might be wondering, what is a native garden? What is the purpose of this whole area? Why is it thriving maybe in the middle of a green desert here, a grassland desert? It's because we've covered the soil and we planted out to excess. We've even added some June berries or service berries. We have some aronia berries. There's some maple trees in there that are pretty young. We've added some currants and some elderberries, but they're all very young. And this is, like I said, its first year. Transitioning to the second year is going to be very interesting because a lot of these plants are dropping seeds in place. So you see this stand of goldenrod through here. It is so dense. I don't know how many plants they actually planted there, but most of that should stay there, but some of the interior ones will die off and they may actually choke themselves out. But if we take some of these cuttings and we go, well, we'd like to fit some in over there, then we can do that. One of the plants that I'm looking to spread is some of this coneflower. You can see we have a little patch of that right here. It is important to keep in mind that gardens like this are always transitioning. So we have a grassland all around this. We've added a lot of non-woody herbaceous plants, flowers, all native to the region. And we've also allowed for some of the stuff that we haven't planted to come up, just like that smotherweed and that pokeweed. And one of the things we try to do is we often will chop that down during the day. Like, that's only 4 weeks of growth. What we do is well, I shouldn't say day. Throughout the year, we actually trim that down, and we'll drop that back on the soil as long as it doesn't have its seeds. That way we're feeding the soil not only with that straw, we have leaf litter falling down, we have rabbits and other animals that come through. We actually have, you see this tree standing proud that's been beaten up by some deer, but it still has some leaves on it. But things like this is a common site for natural gardens that are maintained by us. We left that obviously large so that people could see it. But all of that growth, we just, throughout the year, it would grow up, we'd chop it down, we just drop it down, and you don't even see any of the last bit of trimmings that we did. Well, you see, there's a couple. See that stalk that runs through? And that all will break down and feed the soil and make everything healthier. So I've been incredibly interested in watching this garden transform. Over the last year, we weren't sure it was going to make it through its first summer because I think everything got planted at the end of June last year. And we were hired in July, and we just had to come over like the next day with as much straw to try and save it as much as possible. But this is one of 2 gardens. The other one is next to a creek, so that has a little bit different conditions. However, to have this kind of oasis walkthrough in the middle of the campus, in the middle of this kind of abandoned field that only gets mowed on the side of a main roadway is actually pretty cool, because as the years go by, people become more interested and they'll wonder, what are you guys doing over there? Why are you planting this? And are you guys eating berries over there? Is that an apple tree I see? So this is we're glad that we're on this job, and we're glad to be here to do the first kind of phase of the fall cleanup. We're going to trim up the edges, we're going to finish all that, get them piled out of here, and then we'll come back as things dry out a little bit more, just keep it tidy. One other thing we will be looking at is, like I said, those coneflowers. We're thinking about expanding our garden back there, but for that we'll have to get a little bit more approval, I suppose. So stay tuned for that. I want to thank you for watching, and it's bright out. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.